Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Janice Burt, who describes an early life of being very dependent on other people for her self-worth, not knowing exactly who she is. She describes her early life of being a daughter of missionary parents, of being in a type of dysfunctional family, but a toxic environment. She terminated her marriage after about 14 years and decided she's going to have to start a new life. She describes that start as conquering one fear per year, but we'll learn she had a lot of fears she needed to conquer that we can learn from because we may have similar fears. Marty, what are some takeaways we can gain from Janice?
Janice explains how unhappy she felt about herself and that horrible feeling when you don't have self-confidence. So she decided, as you said, to take one fear a year to get over. And I love that. I think that's so encouraging, and that can be very helpful to someone that says, I just don't like myself, I don't have any confidence, what can I do? And if you just take one thing at a time and get over that, and you can see with her the confidence that she has gained and the happiness she has within inside herself.
And that happiness is a radiance of smile. Although you can't see it, you can definitely sense it in her voice. Let's listen and learn together. Janice, it's great to have you with us. Our listeners are going to be intrigued with your life story. You have overcome some fears of the past, a very unfortunate divorce. I think I've learned you have adopted, I guess that's a term I'll use, overcoming a fear per year. And I may not be stating that correctly, but our listeners are going to be very interested in knowing how you overcame whether you call it trauma, whatever, trauma, disappointments, or something of the past. But Janice, great to have you with us.
Here, and I love talking about this stuff. Like, there's nothing more exciting to me than to encourage other people, because I know how dark and sad and overwhelming sometimes life can be. So any way that I could give some encouragement and hope, I'm here for it.
Janice, I can already tell you are a great source of hope. Can you take us through just a little bit of your past? The most important part is the present, how you overcame whatever fears you had.
Absolutely. So I was married fairly young. I was 20 years old, and I had this idea of what my life was going to be like. And as we know, sometimes our life does not turn out as we expect it to. So 2 kids later and 14 years into our marriage, I went through a divorce, and the loss of my marriage, and I was very codependent, very much a people pleaser. I just was at a complete loss as far as feeling like my world was flipped on its head. So whether or not your listeners can relate to a divorce, I feel like everybody can relate to those times where life does not turn out the way we expect it to, and there's some change or transition, and you're just like, what the heck is going on? And what do I do from here? And who am I? And all of these questions. So that's where I was at about 12 years ago. And there was a period where I did the pity party thing and the blaming and the pointing fingers. And then I realized, well, Janice, that's great and all. It might make you feel better for a little bit, but you're still miserable. You're still stuck in the same position. So how about if you change? How about if you do something differently? Shocker, that's a crazy concept, right? So I had this realization that I was full of fear, and that fear was actually controlling my decisions. So I made a vow that I was going to choose, like be intentional about it, that I was going to choose to walk through one fear every year, which was kind of a relief because I thought I have 365 days to do one thing during all those days that's really scary. So the first thing I did was running a marathon, actually, because I felt like it was impossible. It felt really scary. And so I joined a training group. I trained with them, and I ended up running this marathon. And the accomplishment that I felt and like the admiration and respect for myself was just like this amazing feeling. So I thought, okay, that was one. Now, the next year it was self-publishing a memoir because there were some family secrets that I felt were kind of poisoning my soul. And I wanted to get those things out and express them. So I self-published a memoir. And then the next year it was public speaking and joining Toastmasters and starting to speak my truth out loud. And then it was things like a stand-up comedy routine, which is terrifying. Like trying to make somebody laugh, and a bodybuilding competition. And I traveled to Spain one year and I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage. Every time I did something that scared me, I learned so much. Even if I kind of fell flat on my face, it's not like everything turned out perfectly or I won everything, or it was just the concept of breaking free from that prison that had truly held me back in life. So now, and I still do one fear per year until I can't do it any longer for whatever reason. I'm going to continue doing it until I'm on my deathbed, I guess, because it's been so revolutionary in my life. And so I just encourage everybody out there, whether it's one fear per year or not, like that concept, but the idea of not letting fear hold you back and showing fear that you're in the driver's seat.
Janice, I'm processing what you said as you used to have a very low confidence as a kid. You maybe were raised in a toxic environment, and I mean no intent to blame anyone, but maybe you felt that way. Maybe you were really uncertain of your identity. All of those things came forward until you reached a point where you said, I've got to get rid of all of this, let's say, toxicity in my life. And you're doing that by acknowledging and overcoming one fear per year. I don't want to suppose that what I just said is accurate, but that's the way I'm processing what you're saying.
That's really good. Yes, I was raised in a dysfunctional environment. My parents were actually missionaries in Mexico City. So I lived in Mexico for 5 years as a child, which actually I tell my parents that was the best gift they ever gave me because it was amazing. I learned a new language. I fell in love with the people and the culture. So that part was great. But my parents, so my dad, is a missionary on one hand, and on the other hand, he was living a double life as a gay sex addict. And we didn't know any of this until a bit later. So meanwhile, my mom was very controlling and a lot of judgment and very critical. So having these two parents, and of course they have their amazing qualities as well. But yes, as a child, you're around that and you see this conflict or misalignment in what somebody says and what the actuality is. And so there was a lot of healing that I needed to do with processing my upbringing. So all of that, even this one fear per year, one of it's not always just doing something athletic or competitive. It was one time I realized it was so painful for me just to sit in stillness. Like I just wanted to run away. It's why a lot of people numb things. They distract themselves because the pain can feel very overwhelming at times. So one of the years I went to a yoga teacher training retreat where we learned to meditate and to actually just sit in stillness and focus on our breath and be in the present moment. So that really helped also with healing those emotional wounds from my past. But a lot of times we try to avoid. And my whole message is let's walk through. Like there is no around, above, under. You got to go through it. You have to allow yourself to feel it for it then to leave, for you to process everything and truly live your best life.
Did you live maybe 25, 28 or so years feeling inferior and having this kind of a toxic attitude before the turnaround started? Is that the approximate amount of time of your life?
Let's see. 12 years ago, it was, look at that, Ron. You are, you know your people. Yes, it was about 20, at least 20 years. And that feeling you're talking about of inadequacy, it really is a lack of self-love where I was very insecure, didn't like what I saw in the mirror, felt very critical about myself. So there was a lot of those types of feelings throughout the years.
Along with that is you're uncertain who you are and low confidence. Many of our listeners, and I'm speaking as one myself, early in life, I had no confidence. And it was through other people that I developed confidence. I'm curious, Janet, was it some other people who helped you through this, or did you recover on your own? Just curious, when you made what seems to be the determination, I'm not going to continue being this way, I'm going to take a different route. Did you have maybe some number of people help you with that, or was that a solo effort, so to speak?
It's interesting because I feel like when I made that decision, my tribe kind of changed. I could no longer, not that I couldn't hang out with people that I used to, but there was a little bit of a disconnect because I was on another path. So I did get help from people, but it was not people from my past at all. It was, and I did all kinds of therapy. So I'm a huge proponent of trying everything. If you're feeling that internal pain, really go out there and seek to heal it. And so I did everything from regular talk therapy to EMDR, hypnotherapy, neurofeedback, attachment therapy, those types of things, Reiki, yoga, so that I would have to enlist other people to help me through that process. And like I said, it was not people from my past. It was a whole new tribe. But for everything that I did, there were always people around me. I realized, like the marathon ran with a group. So it was either one coach, one mentor, or many.
I'm processing what you're saying. Earlier on, you had the wrong circle of friends. As you made the decision to change, become more confident, overcome your fears, that necessarily changed your circle of friends, that the former friends could no longer identify with you as well as a new circle of friends did. Am I processing and interpreting that correctly?
Yes, I wouldn't say a blanket statement because I still do have friends from my past. But as far as the healing journey, I had to find other people to help me through that because I was raised in a very religious, fundamentalist, legalistic environment. So a lot of those people didn't agree with me getting a divorce, and I didn't feel very supported by that group of people. And so that's when I had to say, and no hard feelings, I look at that and I go, that's their process. That's how they interpret life. So I'm not going to blame them for that. It just forced me to then go a different path and find people that actually were more interested in loving and supporting me than in judging and criticizing me.
I understand that exactly.
Janice, I want to say I love the idea of one fear a year, but I want to go back to the therapies where they hypnotize you or any of the fears. Did they really help?
Yes. So actually the hypnotherapy was one of the methodologies, I guess you would say, that actually helped me the most. My first hypnotherapy session, I remember, and it feels like a guided meditation where you're just very relaxed. And she was guiding me to go down these stairs. So I'm imagining going downstairs. And then she said, now there's a door in front of you. I want you to picture a door. Can you see the door? I was like, yeah, I see the door in my mind's eye. She said, I want you to open that door, walk through, and this is your safe place. I want you to tell me what you see. And I opened the door to my safe place and there's nothing. It's just like I can't even see my hand in front of my face. And she said, what do you see? And I said, darkness. And she said, what do you feel? And I said, fear. And I just start crying. And that was me kind of going into my subconscious, realizing that literally I was full of fear. Because of that, there was no room for anything else. So, they say like perfect love casts out fear. I truly believe that because I know what it felt like before to be full of fear. And then I know what I feel like now, where I've grown that love inside of myself. And so there's very little room for fear to abide within me anymore, which is really a great feeling.
That's amazing.
Did you have to spend quite a bit of time identifying the individual fears of you have one fear per year? Did you put a big list together before you started on that, or is it maybe a new fear every year coming up?
Not really. It kind of developed naturally as I went. Things would just come up where I said that. It's almost like that intuitive nudging or guidance. But a lot of the things that I've done actually address, like for instance, public speaking. So many people have a fear of public speaking. Really, it's not a fear of public speaking. It's a fear of judgment, a fear of failure, a fear of not being good enough, a fear of looking like a fool, a fear of it's caring too much about what other people think about us. When I say one fear per year, It's an event that elicits one of those fears, like the fear of failure or fear of judgment or fear of loss or not being good enough, those kind of things. So like for my bodybuilding competition, that was a lot of fears all packaged into one, because I was raised in a way that said, you don't, first of all, stand on a stage in a bikini. That's like not something that you're supposed to be doing. So I had all of these fears of judgment and fears. And then there's the fear of failing, because you're standing up there, and I tend to get shaky when I'm nervous. So you're having to walk across and like try to flex your back muscles and do all this craziness. And so there's a lot of fears that I walk through depending on what the event or thing is that I'm doing.
Janice, in Marty's presence, I want to tell you, you have such a radiant smile, and you project what I think is a very healthy confidence. Maybe that's something you've had to bring about. Maybe you didn't have it in your late teens, early 20s. Maybe you just had a very solemn look about you. Wow. I'm curious, with no intention of getting into any detail of your divorce, did you have a fear of, well, maybe no man would accept me, or maybe no man is good enough? Did anything like that ever come into your mind?
Well, like I mentioned, I was very codependent. So the loss of my marriage, and it was a loss because my husband changed, his belief system changed. He wanted to do things that were actually against my own moral values. And I conceded for a while because I was codependent, and I really felt like my worth and my value as a human being was attached to my husband. And I wanted to make him happy. I hate conflict, all these things. But at the end of the day, I was betraying my own soul to stay in that relationship. And it got so painful that the pain of a divorce and of losing him and our marriage became better than the pain that I was in staying in that dysfunctional relationship. So there was a lot of fear around that. And that was probably actually one of the first fears that I actually walked through, was leaving my marriage. And it was heart-wrenching, because as anyone knows out there who's been through a divorce, you think about your kids. You think about this picture perfect life you had imagined, and that you're going to grow old together, and all the things that I had envisioned that were ashes on the ground at this point. So it was a difficult decision that I made that choice.
The topic of boundaries comes to mind, and I don't want to try to suggest you gave that any thought, but I am envisioning, Janice, through all of this, you establish boundaries. And what I mean by that, if that's not necessarily a familiar term, you will not violate me by continuing to do X. By boundaries, you're saying, nope, I'm not going to be subservient to you, something of that nature. Is that, whether you call it boundaries or not, is that something you had to overcome?
Absolutely. And establish. And it's funny that you say that. I have a book that I just wrote last year called Kicking the People-Pleasing Habit. It's a 6-step approach. And one of the steps is establishing boundaries, just like you said. So yeah, I had no boundaries. My lines were squiggly and all over the place, and they would move depending on who I was with. And because I was trying to get validation and approval from everybody outside of myself. So by establishing boundaries with other people and the external world, I can really protect my own internal landscape of who I truly am and my values.
Janice, that may be a topic to take a deeper dive, that I'm going to believe there are some listeners who have not really established boundaries. They might be at a point of, well, if I establish boundaries, he or she won't like me, and I've become codependent. My identity is based on who I think likes me and so forth. It sounds as if, and I'm very curious to know, how long did it take you to feel you had healthy boundaries established? And I'm just reading into that. You had to have some level of confidence to say, nope, you are not going beyond this boundary.
Yes, and it's something I continue working on now because I have to establish boundaries with my kids, my current boyfriend, and friends of mine. And it is, I have to intentionally do it because it's uncomfortable. Every time it just is uncomfortable. But I know that in doing so, I'm actually doing them a favor and myself a favor, because then everybody knows they're her boundaries and I can either respect them, or maybe we're not going to hang out that much anymore because I don't want to respect them and I want to try to walk all over you or take advantage of you. And then it's like, those are the relationships that maybe are not the healthiest. And so you can move along from those relationships. I even, with my dad, when I self-published my memoir, where I talked about his past as my story, because it became my story, I sat down with him and my ex-husband, and I told them both, I am self-publishing a memoir. It has things with you in it because you are a part of my life, and I'm not asking for your permission. I just wanted to let you know. And so I just let him know. And my dad and I continue to have a relationship today, but we could have just as easily, he could have said, screw you. Like, I don't like that you're writing about me and I'm out of here or whatever. So it's knowing though that your boundaries really are super important and to establish them and be clear with them. So that's kind of my thoughts on boundaries.
And I'm thinking of boundaries and friendships in much that same way. To our listeners, I'm not suggesting in any form that you have to totally give up friendships you've had in the past, but I'm guessing, Janice, that maybe a friend that was, let's just use the term, who used to be in your inner circle, maybe further down on the list as a friend. You just don't see them as often as you used to. And you've mentally categorized them as, well, we can talk every once in a while. It's not going to be an everyday, you're not my confidant type thing. And is that the way you somewhat categorize your friendships?
Yes. Yeah, I have had to have some interesting and rough conversations with people, friends, where I've laid my heart out there and said, I feel taken advantage of. Like, for instance, I had a friend who would always call me to edit. I'm pretty good at grammar and writing and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of a silly example, but she would call me to edit her emails and papers and stuff. And that started becoming the only times that she would call me. And it really started bothering me, but I still had some people-pleasing tendencies, so I would just do it. But then I found myself kind of trying to ignore her calls, not pick up as much and stuff like that. Finally, I was like, Janice, you're becoming resentful. You're doing her a disservice and you a disservice. You need to just tell her. And so I had a very uncomfortable conversation and I said, I feel like you're calling me pretty much only to have me correct this grammar and do these editing things for you. And it doesn't feel good. I feel a little used. And so I don't want to, and I actually had to say, I will not correct any more of your papers. And it was just quiet silence. And then, no, okay, you're right. I didn't mean to do that. And I know she didn't mean it in a bad way. I think she just got caught up with her own stuff. And that's what she knew I was good at. But it's so since then, it's been great because now I see she calls and I know she's not going to ask me to like do any editing. And it's an actual conversation. It's a friendship, not something that she maybe should have been paying me for.
The topic of boundaries as relates to self-confidence as relates to, let's say, a very healthy demeanor. And I do believe there's an aspect of mental health along with this in the context of, I don't know my self-identity. I'm relying on other people liking me and the so forth. That's a topic I think we need to discuss further. Would you consider coming back for another episode to unpack a little bit further boundaries as it relates to confidence and your self-worth? I just have a sense all of that is encompassed together.
Absolutely. I would love to. Like I said, this is kind of my favorite thing to do, is talk about this and hear other people's opinions and stories. I truly believe that by expression, a lot of our self-expression and our inner work, we can heal ourselves and thus heal our communities and the world. So I love these conversations.
And the one thing I would like to encourage our listeners to do is engage with people like you, Janice, and you can help us discern what are some things of which we can be aware. Your demeanor. We always want to be a safe space. We don't want to invade your privacy. I'm not advocating that in any form or fashion. But if we can prove to be a safe space and demonstrate to you we care, maybe we can help you express whatever might be in your subconscious that is controlling you, and you just feel comfortable releasing that, knowing we're not going to gossip about you. We're not going to say anything negative about you, but it's just an opportunity to say whatever it is you want to say. And that puts us into very deeply a listening mode. That's what I think we need to unpack a little bit further. And Janice, I have no intention of leading you in any different direction, but I'm just processing what you're saying in that direction.
Absolutely. I would love it.
Janice, on behalf of our listeners, thank you so much for the vibrant life you're leading now, which is, I'm just believing, a quantum leap beyond, in a very healthy way, the way your past used to be.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having this program and podcast so that people can grow and learn and not feel so alone, that we all have these struggles and life can be hard, but that there's hope, and together we are better together. So thank you.
Janice, you represent that source of hope. And our listeners will know that our first objective is to let our listeners know you're not alone. We are in this together. That one word is very operative for Marty and me, together.
I love it. And you guys are adorable.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain higher retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and disc personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.